So this is the Sony XE200, and unfortunately it has gotten the same treatment as the XE300. And personally, I see the Sony XE200 as an overall downgrade from its predecessor, the Sony XB23. And also, the Sony XE200 is pretty large for a small portable Bluetooth speaker. Nonetheless, if you're thinking about getting the Sony XE200, let's see what it's all about. Now first, there's pricing. The XE200 has a retail price of $130, but can be routinely found on sale for $110. But personally, I still wouldn't recommend that you pick up the XE200 even if it's on sale for $110. Whereas with the XB23, it has a retail price of $110 and it routinely likes to go on sale for $100 or even a little less. Overall, I am not a fan of the XE200, and if you already have the XB23, there's no need to upgrade. But regardless, if you want to pick either of these two speakers up, they'll be linked down below, or you can press on the YouTube shopping button. Just give it a try. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch shelf down below. I've made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know I can be very particular. So I'll only set my name on something that I'm really proud of. Now first, let's talk about the design of this speaker. The XE200 is a slightly smaller version of the XE300. It's got the same angular design to it. But still, the XE200 is very large for a small portable Bluetooth speaker, and it's noticeably larger than the XB23, which has a cylindrical body to it. So if you plan on taking your speaker on the go with you, or if you plan on throwing it into your backpack, then the XE200 is not my top pick. Now, from a durability standpoint, technically the XE200 is more durable than the XB23 because its passive radiators are covered, whereas the passive radiators on the XB23 are exposed. But still, I feel the XB23 is more durable than the XE200 because the XB23 has a mostly fabric wrapped body, which is going to be able to stand up to constant abuse, whereas with the XE200, its body is mostly wrapped in silicone. Now, this silicone makes the speaker feel very premium, but it can be a scratch magnet. But overall, when it comes to durability and portability, the XB23 is easily the better choice here because it's noticeably smaller and it's mostly wrapped in fabric. Plus, it also has the same IP67 rating as the XE200, meaning that both of these speakers are both water and dust resistant. Whereas with the XE200, this thing simply takes up a lot of space in your backpack, and it's as large as some other mid-sized speakers out there. But now let's talk about tech specs. Regarding battery life, the XE200 has an advertised battery life of 16 hours, and this looks like a major upgrade from the XB23, which has an advertised battery life of 12 hours. But the XE200's advertised battery life of 16 hours is with it playing at 50% volume and while in stamina mode, which is going to severely reduce its bass and make it sound super flat. Now, the XB23's advertised battery life of 12 hours is also under the same circumstances, but 50% volume on the XB23 is noticeably louder than 50% volume on the XE200. But while both of these speakers are playing with their stock EQs, and while they're both playing at 50% volume, they both have an advertised battery life of 10 hours. But real-world use with both of these speakers playing at 80% volume, both of these speakers are good for about 5 hours of playback time. However, since the XE200 is noticeably quieter than the XB23, I do expect people to use the XE200 at a higher volume, thus draining its battery life faster. So what I'm trying to get at here is that battery life on the XE200 and XB23 is basically the same. Now we're going to connectivity. The XE200 is using Bluetooth 5.2, but more importantly, it can be connected to two devices at the same time, so you and a friend can both be DJ. Now when it comes to audio codecs, the XE200 has support for SBC and AAC, very standard. But the XE200 also has support for LDAC, which is Sony's own in-house high-res audio codec. Now, whether you're an iPhone or an Android user, AAC is going to work perfectly fine. However, if you do want to take advantage of LDAC, you do have to be an Android user, and if you do decide to use LDAC, that is going to take an additional toll on the battery life. And unfortunately, you can only use the XE200 wirelessly because just like with the XB23, it doesn't have an audio jack. Now, even though both of these speakers do have USB-C ports, these USB-C ports are strictly used for charging. You can't use either of these two USB-C ports as a wired connection like you can with some other speakers out there. But now let's talk about actually listening to music with these speakers. Now, both of these speakers have dual front-mode firing transducers, and they both have dual passive radiators that shoot out the sides. However, there are some differences here. With the XE200, its passive radiators are covered, and I can't help but feel that its bass sounds much more muffled, whereas the bass on the XB23 is much richer because its passive radiators are exposed and they have some room to breathe. Now, before we jump into the sound test, just know that both of these speakers were recorded while they were both set to stereo mode, because out of the box, they're both set to mono. Now, we're going to be using both of these speakers while they're playing at 87% volume, and we're also going to be throwing in the XE200 while it's in stamina mode. So, like you may have just heard, the XE200 sounds rather muffled and shallow when compared to the XB23. The XE200 has a warmer sound signature to it to begin with, plus its passive radiators don't have room to breathe, which I feel aren't doing them any favors. Whereas with the XB23, this speaker simply sounds noticeably more open than the XE200. And also, its mids are a little stronger, so vocals are more pronounced on the speaker than on the XE200. Now, the XE200 does have a customizable EQ, just like the XB23, and you can go in and raise the mids and treble on the speaker so that it doesn't sound so shallow. But still, I just can't get the speaker to sound like the XB23. There's this hint of muffledness that I just can't get rid of. And then there's max volume performance on this speaker. Since the XE200 has a warmer sound signature, it is noticeably quieter than the XB23. Now, I've tried using this speaker with a brighter EQ, but still the XB23 manages to edge out ahead. Now, with both of these speakers, I did find that you get a very slight performance boost if you use them while they're plugged in. But the performance boost here is so small, I don't think you're going to notice it because I barely did. So with all that being said, sound quality wise, the XB23 easily outperforms the XE200. The XB23 simply sounds more open than the XE200, its bass doesn't sound as muffled when in person, and it gets noticeably louder as well. But now let's talk about pairing the XE200 up to other speakers. Now the XE200 is using Sony's Party Connect, meaning that you can pair it up to other Sony Party Connect speakers, like either an XG500, XG300, XE300, or an XE200, or you can also pair it up to an XB43, XB33, or XB23, and you can pair up to 100 speakers together, which is obviously overkill, because at that point you might as well just buy yourself a sound system. Or if you want, you can pair your smaller XE200 up to any of Sony's larger box speakers also using Party Connect, like either an XP500 or XP700. The only thing that you gotta keep in mind here is that you cannot pair any of Sony's Party Connect speakers to any of Sony's older speakers using wireless party chain. And also, if you want to get a left and right stereo sound going, you have to have two of the exact same speakers. Even if you were to pair up an XE200 to an XB23, which have the same speaker setups, they're only going to play in sync. Now, even though Sony's Party Connect is very accommodating and it gets the job done, it is not my favorite speaker pairing protocol out there because it can be a hassle to use. Now, first off, with the XE200, it no longer has a physical button on it to activate Party Connect. If you want to get Party Connect going, you have to use the app, which just isn't as streamlined when compared to the XB23. But also, sometimes getting these groups together can take forever. And also sometimes when you're trying to connect your speakers together, all of your speakers won't get connected. So you'll have to go through the pairing process multiple times. But also sometimes echoes do form. Now, Sony's Party Connect does correct this echo after a while, but it's only a matter of time before this echo comes back. So overall, like I said, Sony's Party Connect gets the job done and it's very accommodating, but it can be a hassle to use sometimes. And finally, here's the microphone test. Now, the XE200 is about 5 feet away from me. It's sitting on the tabletop and is facing directly at me. Now, overall, the microphone on the XE200 isn't awful, but I still wouldn't take phone calls with my speaker if I don't have to. But with all that being said, unfortunately, the XE200 has gotten the same treatment as the XE300. The XE200 is now sporting a larger body than its predecessor, the XB23, making it not the best small portable Bluetooth speaker to take on the go with you. If the XE200 had a larger battery in it, then that would have made the size difference okay. But the XE200 has the same real-world battery life performance as the XB23. But more importantly, the XE200 simply sounds noticeably worse than the XB23. Even though they have the same speaker setup, the XE200 sounds very narrow, shallow, and even a little muffled. Whereas the XB23 has noticeably better instrument separation and its bass resonates better as well. Overall, if you already have the XB23, there's no need to upgrade, and if you're thinking about picking up the XE200, unless you're getting a major deal, I would consider something else first. If you made it this far, I guess you enjoyed the video, so hit the like button and get subscribed. If you want to pick any of the products up, they'll be linked down below. And if you want to further support the channel, check out the merch. I made some shirts and hoodies that look and feel great. And you know I can be very particular, so I'll only slap my name on something if I'm really proud of it.